Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons!
West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! Everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! Everywhere we go!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the West Ham Massive. Thanks for joining us, and please don't forget to like, comment on and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're new around here, and don't forget to hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. All these things take a couple of seconds of your time, are completely free of charge, and help to grow the channel into something bigger and better down the track. And we thank you very much indeed for your support. So, we're here to discuss match day 6 of 38. Brentford versus West Ham at the G-Tech Community Stadium. It feels like a pivotal moment in the season for me, and I suspect that a lot of West Ham fans probably feel the same way. 6 games into a Premier League season, and I'm saying that. It is quite strange. Considering the outlay that we had, considering the optimism that we had going into the season, all of the transfers, we got a new coach in place that's in harness with the technical director, so it seemed at the time. It's all starting to unravel now, it would appear. They're all blaming each other. And now here we are, the 6th game in the Premier League, and it all seems to be coming apart at the seams. It's really quite strange. Anyway, we'll get into that. Keep your eye on the ticker at the bottom. It will intermittently change and give you odd little facts and figures and stats and various bits of information that are pertinent to the game that's taking place at the G-Tech later this afternoon, such as the officials that are going to be taking to the pitch. I'm also going to press this button. I've got a little presentation for you lucky people, and we're just going to go through it. And please, guys, that if you're watching this live, get involved in the live chat and get your thoughts in along the way, and we'll try and discuss as many of them as possible. And if you're watching this after the fact, please put your comments in the section below, and I'll get stuck into as many of them as I can. Really do appreciate your consideration on that one. Okay, as you can see, I'm on my own today. So my thoughts on the opposition, they're a team that punch well above their weight. Let's be completely honest about it. Brentford shouldn't be a Premier League club, yet they are now an established Premier League club. They've managed to function very well. They're very similar to Brighton in a lot of ways. Again, Brighton I don't consider, in terms of what they have to their disposal, they should be a Premier League club. And I'm not saying that in a patronising sense. I think a lot of Brighton and Brentford fans would know where I'm coming from. They're batting well above their average. They're not a team that sort of like got some mega rich oil baron benefactor from the Middle East or something that's pumping money in left, right, and centre. They're living within their means. They're cutting their cloth accordingly. But they have an identity. They have a DNA. You know exactly who's in charge of what, which is kind of not what we've got at the moment, it would appear. But they've managed to suss it out. They've managed to sort of get a way of working, and even losing their star player in the summer, Ivan Toney, who was their number one player, really, let's be honest about it. And even despite the fact that he had that timeout with the betting scandal and all the rest of it, he was their number one man. They lost him in the summer, the back end of the transfer window. He goes to Saudi in a big money deal. Look, he's 28 years of age. He's being offered 400k a week. I'm sure he was already very wealthy, but that was a mind-boggling sum of money. And I guess he looked at it and thought, mate, I can't turn that down. I seriously can't. I probably know it's a crap standard of football, but this is just going to change the life of me, my family, my grandchildren, probably generations yet to come. So I don't blame him for sort of taking the money and running. I think any one of us would have done the same thing. But I mean, even that doesn't seem to have fazed them. You know, they've got players that have taken up the slack. They've done good business. A lot of players that probably a lot of other clubs wouldn't have considered, probably most fans had never heard of in some cases. And they've managed to just sort of like keep things bobbing along quite nicely. They're doing okay in the Premier League. There's nothing really sort of that you're looking at and thinking that they might have a bit of a problem. They're sitting there in 12th place. You know, it's not earth shattering, but they're not in a sort of like a really bad shape or anything like that. Let's hope we can change that today. But they're a well-run club. They're a well-run club. Just got a little comment coming in here from Colin. Let's get that up on the screen. Colin says, "Good morning, Rob, and everyone in the chat. This is what I've heard from my sources the team will be." Colin says, Areola, Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, Mavropanos. Oh dear. Oh dear. If your sources are correct, Colin, oh dear. That's all I've got to say. As soon as I get to Mavro, I'm like, oh dear. Emerson, Soucek, Soler as the double pivot, Somerville left wing, Paquetá, Kudus right wing, and Bowen. You may well be correct. I mean, obviously, I'll have my 11 that I would like to see, just to get that out there when it's up on the screen. It's not what I've heard or what I believe the head coach will pick, but it's what I'd probably like to see. And obviously there are players that won't be involved, and we'll get into that. But it probably won't be the team that sees the light of day ever. Certainly not in the formation I've put it, I don't believe, but we'll see. DiCanio, hope you're well. Mavro Titus Bramble. Yes, there's a name from the past. Ipswich, Newcastle. Didn't he play for Sunderland as well? Or was that his brother? I'm sure he played for both of the Tyne and Weir clubs. I'm sure he did. I might be misremembering. It's entirely possible. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Brentford as a club. We're going to have our work cut out for us because, look, let's be fair. When we play Brentford, we've had more than our fair share of troubles. And you look at that, our Premier League head-to-head record, that's testament to that fact. Of the 6 games we've played, we've got only the singular win. We obviously did win in the FA Cup 2 seasons ago when, irony of ironies, the goal that separated the two teams in a 1-0 victory for West Ham was scored by the former Brentford player Saeed Benrahma in the 73rd minute. But other than that and the singular win in the Premier League, everything else has been pretty much Brentford's way. So, going to be a tough one. Going to be a really tough one. And coming into it in the form that we're in, this is not good. This really is not good. Yes, I did have a vague recollection. He played for both of them, DiCanio. I had a vague recollection. So thanks for just confirming that my recollections were not some vagary of some middle-aged idiot rambling on a YouTube stream. Opposition's key players. Well, look, I've always been a fan of Bryan Mbeumo. I mean, obviously when Ivan Toney was in the building, he was always the star boy. He was always the one that got the limelight. But Bryan Mbeumo, for me, I always thought he held his own, more than held his own. He's always been someone that I've been very impressed with. And now it seems that now Tony's moved on to pastures new. I think that now is the time that Bryan Mbeumo can step up and go, I'm the main man now. Another player that I've always been fairly impressed with whenever I've seen him play, although I don't suspect that he'll be involved today for reasons that I'll get into momentarily, is Yoane Wissa. Another player that I think from memory, if I remember correctly, he scored the winning goal when we played at London Stadium about 3 seasons ago, there or thereabouts. Again, a player that's always looked busy, always looked lively, is a bit of a handful. But if I had to pick one singular player to be my opposition key player, it would probably be Bryan Mbeumo. Now, before we go too much further, I think we probably should discuss some of the team news that I'm looking on this website here regarding the two teams. We'll go through Brentford first because they're the home team, and just mention that Thomas Frank is going to be without, as I say, Yoane Wissa is not going to be involved today by all accounts, and Thiago. So obviously Brian Mbeumo is going to be the man up top leading the line. Therefore, you would suspect. Also, Matthias Jensen, Josh Da Silva, Rico Henry, Aaron Hickey, Gustavo Nunes are all out of the team. Obviously, therefore, I look at that and go, well, Rico Henry and Aaron Hickey are the left back, right back, respectively. So their replacements, could they be got at? Is the key for West Ham's success or failure going to be the attacks coming down the flanks attacking Brentford's goal? We shall wait and see. A doubt for Brentford is Christian Norgard. He's going to be reassessed just before the kickoff. For us, it is pretty simple. Edson Alvarez misses out because obviously he got sent off against Liverpool in midweek. And we know that Nicholas Füllkrug is he's a bit of a concern. Will he start? Will he come from the bench? Will he be involved in the squad at all? All these things are up in the air. But Alvarez is the only one that is definitely not going to be involved. So we have almost a full strength squad to choose from. But the miss of Edson Alvarez could be quite critical, because then you've got the problem of who do you play if you're going to play as a dedicated defensive midfielder, because you don't have to. But if you are going to play with a dedicated defensive midfielder, then who's going to be the one to play? Now, you could turn around and say Guido Rodriguez would be your choice. I think that it's fair to say, and I don't mean to be unkind, he's not had the best start in the Premier League. He's looked quite cumbersome. He's looked quite laboured. I don't know whether the pace of the Premier League is maybe too much for him. He might be able to calibrate, but I don't know. I've just got a few little doubts. Could it be maybe Thomas Soucek dropping back there? Again, he'd do a job, but I don't know whether it'd be my preferred option, in all honesty. So we'll wait and see. I'll get my team up a little bit later on. The Brentford team, I'll get that off the back. I think that they will probably line up in something akin to a 4-3-3 formation with Mark Flecken between the sticks. As I say, their first choice fullbacks in Rico Henry and Aaron Hickey are going to be out. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a shuffling round and sort of putting players in place. So I'm going to sort of like suggest that Ayer, Pinnock, Berg and Ruslev as the back four. I then think that you're going to have Damsgaard, Janel in central midfield with Norgard as the anchor of those three. And then up front, Sharda left, Carvalho right, and then Mbeumo leading the line through the middle. That's what I think we're very likely to face at the GTEC Stadium. Nearly said the Kingston Community. Where the hell's that? Yeah, it's that's the team that I suspect we could see. Now, Thomas Frank might make me look completely silly, but I'm going to go with that one there. Let's also move on to who will be the West Ham player that will be key to a positive result. Well, I think that the usual answers would probably your Jared Bowens and your Mohamed Kudusis. I'm not quite sure that it's going to be our offensive players so much. I think, personally, we need to see a big game from actually two players, because I don't think that these two players covered themselves in glory last week against Chelsea. Forget the Liverpool game. Forget that. That's gone. I'm talking about the Chelsea game. There was two players that I don't think covered themselves in glory. Now, part of it might have been to do with the formation that didn't get the very best out of them. But I suspect that that's possibly an argument that the two players in question might well put forwards. That's fine. But I would probably say that there's two players for me that really need to step up to the plate if we're going to get something. And I take a point. I'll be straight. If we can go to Brentford and we came away with a point and possibly even a clean sheet, a 0-0 draw would do me. I'd be fine with that. I'd be absolutely fine with that, because our record there is awful. Our record against Brentford full stop is awful, but our record there is absolutely shocking in the Premier League. So I would take a 0-0 draw. when you're in this situation that we're in, where the results are not going well, and there appears to be a little bit of fighting behind the scenes with everybody squabbling and everybody taking credit for what they want to take credit for and blaming everybody else for the things that go wrong. Sometimes you just need to dig in. Sometimes you just need to sort of like bite down on the gum shield and plow on through. And it might not be pretty sometimes, but do you know what? I think a 0-0 draw, I'd actually be pretty comfortable with if that's what happened. Don't get me wrong, 3 points would be great. But I think that if we're going to get something, the two players that we need to step up to the plate are Max Kilman and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I thought those two had shocking games last week. I really did. As I say, I think part of it might have been to do with the formation. So I don't want to stick the boot in, but we need to see the Max Kilman and Aaron Wan-Bissaka that we saw earlier in the season against, say, Crystal Palace or against Man City. Those games, they shone. They looked the best version of themselves. Against Chelsea, that didn't look too clever. So we need to see them get back on the horse. We need to see them shine, because I think otherwise we could be in for a long 90 minutes. It could be quite a stretch, I would say. What would be my starting 11? Well, interesting. Before I show you my starting 11, guys, let's have a little look at your comments before we go too much further, because I can see you've thrown a couple in. Sean, hope you're doing well. Tough game, but got to win these sort of games. I don't know if this is a must-win game, Sean. I think it's a must-not-lose game. Absolutely, we must not lose. I would accept a point. I really would. Like I say, 3 would be great, but a point, I think, is an absolute, boost. Rob, mate, now this is the team I would like. So Colin's team. So this is not the team that he quoted earlier, because that's the team that he believes will start. But this is Colin's team if he's in the dugout. So he's going Areola, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, Todibo, Emerson, Somerville left wing, Soler, Paquetá, Kudus, Guilherme. Remember him, ladies and gentlemen? He's dropped off the radar. Bowen up front. So you're putting Guilherme on the right wing, and you've got Paquetá, Kudus, and so I like that. I like that. That's not so bad. Pitts, hope you're well. Good morning, and thanks for coming along. Mike, same to you. Thanks for popping along. Really do appreciate it. Berlin Lounge is in there. Hello. Did anyone shine v Chelsea? I think probably our best player was probably our goalkeeper, and I don't think he played like a prime Gordon Banks, but he probably was our best player. So that probably tells you what you need to know. Oh, yeah, and you just mentioned there, yeah, Somerville, I think, is probably someone that could probably come out of it with their head held high. Yes, that's a fair point. To date, the geezer has done nothing to merit retaining the job. If he was different from what he'd gone before, he would take 3 points where we don't win at the G-Tech. Let's not lower the bar any further. Fair point, Pitts. Fair point. Thanks for your input. Colin says the back four I picked needs consistently playing to get working as a team. I think that's completely correct. I think that, for continuity, for understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses and patterns of play and things like that, it doesn't really do anyone much good if you're chopping and changing your back four. It also would tend to suggest that the manager probably doesn't have faith in that unit. And exactly what Mike says there, stable back four, we have the players. I really do think that's a fair point, guys. I really do. But yeah, that's our season so far. But as far as the teams that are going to sort of like take, as I say, my starting 11, let me just sort of press the button because I think it's the next slide, ladies and gentlemen. Do you remember that next slide, please? Do you remember that during COVID when we had them sort of daily briefings? And who was it? It was obviously you had Boris Johnson and all those sort of lovely people. The Patrick, was it the Patrick Vallance? That's a name that rings a bell. All those years ago, but it was actually only 5 minutes ago, relatively. Hang on, let me just sort of whiz on through the top goal scorer. Let's get these out the way before I get to my 11. So Brian Mbeumo's got 4 goals this season, with Johan Rissa contributing 3. Our top goal scorer in the Premier League is Jared Bowen with a singular goal. How's your luck? As far as assists concerned, there's 3 players that have got 1 assist apiece. There's probably more than that. This is a little thing, screen grab that I've got from the Premier League's own website. Jared Bowen, Matthias Jensen, and Maximilian Kilman, as they've got him. Just call him Max. It's fine. I don't think he minds that much. And then sort of like the top player stats for tackles, top of the tree with 15 tackles is Ethan Pinnock of Brentford, followed by his teammate Christian Norgard on 13 and Nathan Collins, also of Brentford, on 10. That's my team. It's probably not going to happen. It probably will never happen in a million years. But I think probably most people would agree with the back 5 being Areola, Emerson, Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, and Todibo. Yeah, I think most people would get on board with that. I also think most people would get on board with putting Somerville on the left and Kudus on the right. I think most people would be on board with that. I think most people would be on board with Jared Bowen playing up top. It's the other 3 that probably a lot of people might sort of question and sort of quibble over. You know, do you put this player in? Do you put that player in? For me, I think that the loss of Edson Alvarez is key, and he's quite detrimental, because I don't think that we've got someone that's on the same level as him in that position. So it might well mean that we might have to cut our cloth accordingly and say, okay, well, maybe we don't have a dedicated central midfielder, defensive central midfielder. So this is essentially a 4-4-1-1 formation that I've selected. I don't suspect it will happen, guys. I really don't. I'm not stupid. Do I think that this will see the light of day? No, I don't. But it's my go at it. And look, I'm not a tactical genius. I coached football teams lower down, sort of like youth grade and whatever, but I'm not Pep Guardiola. I don't profess to be. So this is just my little go, and it's just for a bit of fun. It's not going to happen. It's not like my arse is on the line and I'm a Premier League manager. I might be a little bit in trouble with this. I don't know, but you know what? Fuck it. It's my 11. I'm going to do it. So I would put Souček and Soler as 2 central midfielders. Yes, okay, Souček is not the most mobile, but do you know what? He will stick his foot in. He'll cover every blade of grass. He'll get up for tackles, interceptions, headed clearances, all of those things. He'll be the one that's the battler. The craft and the invention is going to come from Carlos Soler. He'll be the one that's sort of like threading the through balls and knitting the sort of like the passing game together. And I've got Paquetá as a sort of like a second striker sort of thing. He's going to have like a roaming role. I'll just say to him, look, mate, I'm not going to sort of pigeonhole you. I'm not going to box you in and say that, you're going to be on the left or you're going to do this or whatever. Just sort of bob around, a Matt Letizia type role for those older people that remember the Matt Letizia sort of role. He just sort of bob around. He'll create things. He'll sort of like drift around. He'll cause the centre backs a little bit of a problem with some of the positions that he might take up, because it might be that he's dragging a centre back out of position, which is then going to create space for other players around him to take advantage. That's what I'd put in. As I say, I don't suspect it will see the light of day, and it may well get ripped to shreds if it did see the light of day, and that's fine. But that's my 11. You asked for it. There it is. Let's have a little look at who we got. Back 4 might be okay if he asked more than 50% of them to defend. That's a fair point, Berlin Lounge. Mike comes in, says the middle has to be sorted out. It's not working. Maybe Paquetá to be benched and get a workman in there. What, you mean with a high vis and a hard hat and a shovel and a cup of tea? I know what you mean, Mike. I'm taking the mick. The worrying thing is our Tommy looked more cultured than Guido when he replaced him. Well, that again is probably why I've lent towards Thomas Souček as opposed to Guido Rodriguez. As I say, I've not been overly impressed with him. I know he's obviously got a World Cup winners medal on his CV, and that's great. But that doesn't mean to say he's going to fit in as a Premier League player. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the man of the match in the 2002 World Cup was a Brazilian player by the name of Kleberson. He went to Manchester United and he didn't do anything because he just couldn't cope with the pace and the physicality of the Premier League. Just because you've got a World Cup winners medal doesn't mean to say you're going to be a success in the Premier League. So that's pretty much it from me as far as that's concerned. Listen, I'm going to knock it on the head there because I've been rattling on for about the last 20 odd minutes. Oh no, idiot. There is one more thing. The all important one. Score predictions, ladies and gentlemen. Score predictions. Get them in the live comments. Get them in. I'm always in a quandary with these sort of situations because I've got my heart and my head saying two different things. And unfortunately, I have to always let my head rule because it's common sense. It's logic coming into things rather than just my heart going, it's West Ham. Of course we can win. And then of course we can. That's a fact. But you know, I just say I would take a 0-0. I would take a 0-0 now. Absolutely. But what do I think is going to happen? In my heart of hearts, my head ruling my heart, I think the outcome today isn't going to be positive. All of these stories coming out of the woodwork about Tim Stighton didn't choose Lopetegui. He wasn't his choice. And I think we all suspected right from the get-go that he was a Sullivan appointment because, look, Sullivan does not pay to get coaches and managers out of contracts at other clubs. He tends to get free agents. And wouldn't you know, Lopetegui was a free agent. So it had Sullivan's fingerprints on it right from the get-go if you were looking close enough. But there was no real need for these comments to come out from Tim Stighton. No real need at all. He wasn't my pick. Well, okay. But those comments are really not helping a manager who is under the pump at the minute. And whatever you think about him, you know, whether you think that he's a good coach, whether you think that he needs to go already or anything in between, coming out with that right now is really counterproductive. Really counterproductive. So the only thing I can sort of like think is Tim Stighton's motivation is he's just trying to sort of like back away from the smoking gun. And he's just like, yeah, not me. The guy you want to blame is that short fella over there with the Russian hat on and the bird with the big tits sitting next to him. And then you got Sullivan. He's not helping either. Oh, I was the one that picked Crescencio Somerville. Well, what's the point of you getting a director of football, mate, or a technical director? If you're going to sort of like pick the head coach over him, yet you've given him the remit to do that. If you're going to start picking players, which again is the technical director's remit, then what's the fucking point of having a technical director? I must be sort of confused here. But getting back to my score prediction, as I say, head ruling heart. I think all of these things are, like I say, not being helpful. Our current form, our bad record against Brentford. I think all these things, unfortunately, come together and mean that we lose the game by 2-1. I hope I'm wrong. I think I need me to be wrong, because otherwise this becomes really quite serious, you know, because we then in a situation where we go into a game against Ipswich. Now that then takes on an even bigger significance than it already would have done. Let's have a look at your comments then, guys. Let's have a look. Budgie's in. Hope you're well, mate. Thanks for coming along, mate. Do appreciate it. Colin says, what I believe not helping things is a changing side around game to game. Another thing, I don't want fullbacks bombing forward. It leaves us open too much at the back. Look, it's the modern fullback does bomb on. That's the thing, though, Colin. And there's no problem doing that if you've got a defensive midfielder that can plug the gaps. That's what the defensive midfielder is there for, essentially, to allow the fullbacks to sort of like roam further forwards. I'm not quite sure that Guido Rodriguez, when he was in that position, was terribly helpful. I've also got a little bit of a theory about Edson Alvarez, but I'm going to save that for another stream, because obviously there wouldn't be any point in me in doing another stream if I was going to get my thoughts off of my chest now. Budgie's gone for a Desmond, and Sean reckons it's going to be 2-1 to the Cockney boys. I would absolutely snap your arm off for that, Sean. I really would. 1-1 says the Bowling Lounge. Pitt says if they don't score after 3 minutes, we might have a chance. Yeah, their last 2 games, they've scored early, haven't they? We might have a chance. Hopefully, OG has his shooting boots on again today. OG's definitely got to play. Yep, that was obviously a successful goal scorer against Liverpool. OG. Mike says draw will still be positive with a good performance, but I suspect Loppy will go back to the same setup. That would not end well, I suspect, Mike. I really don't. My head says we lose 2-1. Yeah, so you're with me, Colin. But my heart says we win 2-0. Hope my heart wins. I'm pretty much with you, mate. That's pretty much where I'm at. It's all newspaper chat, just noise. Well, I don't know. No smoke without fire, I think is the saying, Mike. Something's going on. And I did the stream earlier in the week. If you haven't seen it, go back. I did the thumbnail to sort of resemble the film Captain America Civil War. For those of you that like the Marvel films, you probably saw the thumbnail and instantly recognized the setup. And basically, Stighton v Lopetegui, Civil War was the thumbnail, or Lopetegui v Stighton, actually, more accurately. I thought at the time something's going on behind the scenes. There's just little clues that I observed where I thought, And I did have a few people in the comments and since then that sort of like thought that I was way off the mark. And then obviously all these things have come out about comments attributed to this person, that person, finger pointing this person, that person. Something's going on, guys. Something is going on behind the scenes and it's not right. It's, what should be happening is that it should be a united front. The three of them, Sullivan, Stighton, and Lopetegui, should be coming out and going, we are as one, we are combined, we're on the same page. Things have not started well, but this is an evolution, not a revolution. This is going to get better. We're all together. We're in this for the long haul. So you lot can put your knives away and we're all together. Even if behind the scenes, what's being said between the three of them is actually something different, that's the portrayal, that's the public message that should be going out, that this is a harmonious unit. But there's all these things coming out. Thank you very much, Mike. Yes, gently tickle the like button. Gently give it a tickle. No problem with fullbacks bombing on. That you do it with intelligence and not stay up the pitch like they're non-defending wingers. That's a fair point, Berlin. That really is. In the same way, they won't pay for a manager. They won't sack him this early. They won't pay compensation. Yeah, but he's only on a 2-year contract. And I heard a rumor, and I think if Budgie's still in, he might be able to say the same thing. Someone said, and I don't know if it's right, that he had such confidence in his ability that there's apparently some clause in his contract where we don't have to pay him compensation. Now, if that's correct, I'm like, wow, I've never heard a manager do that. I really don't. But what we got here? So be careful what you wish for, FC. We will lose today. I'm praying Lopetegui walks awful manager. I'm going to take it you're not a fan. It's just a vibe I'm getting. Look, I want any manager to succeed, even if it's someone who I don't think is up to the mark. I mean, Avram Grant, for instance, I thought lovely fella, but just not a manager all the time, that he had a hole in his arse in the Premier League. He had a really good agent. I mean, he got a job at Chelsea and Portsmouth before he rocked up at us, and he took Portsmouth down. So he did two of it. So I hope he succeeds. Is he Pep Guardiola 2.0? No, and I never suspected he would be. But I think that he needs to be given a bit of a chance. But the problem is with £150 million expenditure, 10 players brought in the transfer window, it brings pressure. If he'd have brought in 2 players and we'd have spent 5 million, he gets more time. I think he gets more time. I think he gets more understanding. When you're spending 150 million and you're bringing in 10 players, there's an expectation that you're going to come out of the gate and you're going to be sort of like flying down the track. Instead, we've tripped over our own laces and we're just sort of, scrabbling around. It's not good. Rats in a sack. Yeah, it's not a good look. It really isn't. As I say, the public portrayal should be we're united, even if behind the scenes they're not saying the same thing. Ed, hope you are well. Thanks for popping along. Sack him now. He's useless. Said it from day one. Yeah, but I mean, you need to give him time. Like I say, every manager needs to be given time. Now, the problem is where is the line? Everybody's got a different perception on that. I mean, I'm guessing you'd be quite happy to sort of sack him before the game, let alone after the game. The former's not going to happen. The latter is possible, depending upon the nature of the defeat, I guess. If we was to get done 5-6-0, then it might well be that maybe you get your wish. But we'll see what happens. As I say, I wish him well because I want West Ham to do well. It's as simple as that. I've got no vested interest in the head coach, but I just want the best outcome for West Ham. And for me, getting beat left, right, and centre, it just ain't the best result. Best news I've heard all season, says the Pits. I heard the same. Yeah, I thought there was something budged. There was, as I say, I don't know if that's ever been substantiated. But I remember hearing that rumour, same as you. The Tebow thing, I don't buy, I'm afraid. Think he just arrived unfit. Well, how long does it take him to get fit, though, Berlin? How long? Check his last game before joining us. He hasn't been match fit before now. I'm not sure. I know there was this thing about he got run over as a child, 9 years of age, whatever. So getting him up to a level of fitness, it takes him a while. But surely, he's a professional athlete. He should be at a fairly decent fitness level as it is. It's not like he's me, a 48, 49-year-old geezer with a knackered left knee, little bit overweight, bit of a beer belly, all those things. He's an athlete, so he should be pretty close to getting to full fitness, I would have thought. We're a sleeping giant. Sullivan's problem needs him out. 3 richest in the Prem, Newcastle, Man United, only two clubs richest. We should be a top 4. Don't know about top 4. And like I say, I think we should have been pushing for top 8, and we still might. There's still plenty of road in the season for us to improve. But at the minute, it's not looking good. But hopefully we can turn it around. Pits, forget the result for a minute. Look at Kudus, Bowen, Pac-Man's performance, and ask yourself, why have they been so poor? Budgie says, I also heard a similar thing at Wolves where he walked out on the dawn of the league starting. Yeah, I don't know. I think what happened there was he was given promises. He was given assurances that X, Y, Z would happen, and it didn't. And he felt, well, bollocks, I've got to walk, which is fair enough. Anyway, look, I am going to disappear, guys, because I've got to have some breakfast. I'm getting hungry. Thanks all, guys, for your interaction in the live chat. I really do appreciate it. And before you all disappear, if you wouldn't mind, if you could please like the stream, comment on it in the comment section if you're watching this after the fact. Share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are new around here. And don't forget to hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. All these things that you can do take a couple of seconds of your time, are completely free of charge to you, and they help to grow the channel into something bigger than its current subscriber base of 1,276 subscribers as I speak currently. And we always thank you very much indeed for your support, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to disappear, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't forget to give your support to the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity. Come on, you Irons. Hopefully my head is wrong, and hopefully we do get something at the Brentford G-Tech Stadium, whatever it's called. Come on, you Irons.
Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons.